Going to pose a question to Jeffries about what's the point of being in Congress. What makes me think of that is just Democrats succeeded in President Obama when he spoke to House Democrats recently. He praised them for sticking together to do what? To keep Republicans from defaulting on the debt ceiling. In terms of advancing sort of proactively an agenda, we've been sitting here talking for a while now about how intractable the Republicans are. So the prospects of getting any sort of major legislation through seem not that bright. Here's John Yarmuth, a Democrat from Kentucky, who was asked about a pending retirement of one of his Democratic colleagues last week by Kate Nocera. He said, I was talking to one member who's retiring, and I said, do you feel good about it? And he said, I really do. It just got to the point where it wasn't worth it. It's pretty stressful. Everybody's aware the system is broken, and that becomes stressful. I don't know how long that guy had been in office, probably longer than you, but Congressman, do you feel that at all?
Well, listen, it's still an honor and a privilege to serve in the Congress. We are facing sort of unprecedented obstruction from the Tea Party-dominated Republican caucus in the House of Representatives. But notwithstanding that reality, over the last 14 months, we've seen at least 5 separate incidents in major areas where the Hastert rule has been violated and big picture ideas have been passed into law. It began with the fiscal cliff agreement. Overwhelming Democratic support, limited Republican support, passed out of the House of Representatives. Then the Superstorm Sandy relief package a few weeks later in January of 2013. Then in February, the Violence Against Women's Act was reauthorized over the objection of hard-right conservatives in the House of Representatives. And then at the end of December last year, we saw a budget agreement that rolled back some of the sequestration cuts, limited Republican support, overwhelming Democratic support. And then most recently, earlier this month, with the clean debt ceiling, that obviously would have been catastrophic. So in 5 areas, we've actually seen the Hastert rule violated, which gives myself and others hope that as long as Democrats continue to remain unified under Leader Pelosi, perhaps we can tackle some of these big picture issues because they have been tackled in the past.
And I kind of say, I served 2 terms. My first term was under the last 2 years of the Bush administration. My second term, first 2 years of Obama. When the fiscal crisis happened, when people couldn't get home loans or car loans, when it went and attacked Wall Street, it was George Bush and Hank Paulson that came into Congress and said, we need to come together. We need to put the country first. My folks said, you just won your first race by 0.6%. This is your first reelection. Don't screw this up. It's your first reelection 2 months later. Vote no against this. I know policy, but just, and I was like, no, I'm going to do the right thing. And you know, we did some things to make it, taxpayers get their money back first and stuff. But the Democrats, for the most part, stepped up for the country and put it first. You don't see it right now. You didn't see it in the stimulus. And Hakeem, you weren't there, so I'm not trying to yell at you, but you didn't see it in the stimulus. You don't see it with gun reform. You don't see it with background checks. You don't see it with immigration. And it's crazy. And that's why the system is broken. And John Yarmuth, who you quoted there, we came into Congress together when we both want to know. They are disgusted down there because there's folks that aren't willing to put the country first. Exactly. And they're not willing to provide the leadership and make the compromises. That's why I'm glad President Obama's not playing the reindeer games that happened in the past. He's saying, this is my vision. Let's now, if you're serious, let me see yours and let's come together.
Well, so what's going to happen here? If he's not going to change CPI on the table, he's not going to put these concessions that Republicans at some point have said they want on the table anymore. He's going to put the budget that he wants on the table. Apparently, it's going to include $56 billion in more spending. I guess it would be offset by cuts elsewhere. He's looking for a closing of some loopholes. But realistically, you know, he can say no to compromising on chain CPI with Republicans, but realistically, can the president get through any kind of budget that's remotely similar to what he wants?
Well, that's why Ronald Reagan was wrong. The scariest words in the English language were, I'm from the government and I'm here to not help. And if we were sane, we would be talking about military cuts, but then we'd only have a military as big as China, Russia, and England combined. I think if the president's smart, he will start talking about these loopholes and start forcing his Republican counterparts to defend these loopholes, which make life a lot more comfortable for the richest among us, because that's who they're serving right now. And the only way you're going to drive a successful wedge in that party is to let the average social conservative know these guys are fighting for Wall Street, and you can't stand up for Main Street when you're on your knees for Wall Street.
And it does appear that the president is doing that. He's going to propose $56 billion in additional spending, and it appears that he will pay for it largely by closing corporate loopholes, oil and gas industry, other loopholes that are really unacceptable to the American people. Let's go out and have this debate and force the Republicans to defend what really is an untenable position.
But that's exactly what the budget